Hi class, this is JilMac. I'm the instructor for the Community College of Vermont and the Windham Regional Career Center, as well as independent one-on-one training for small businesses and individuals. Students know that anything in this video that they don't understand, they can give me a call. So basically, what we're doing in this video is we are going over Chapters 5. So this is our textbook for web development, and we're on the web textbook page. And if we go to the downloads files, we can go to Chapter 5. And Chapter 5 just gives us a little reminder up here about that usually on websites, images are all put in one directory called IMG or images. Sometimes they're called assets, but for the most part, it's images or image. And that when you link to them, you're going to link to them by telling them go into this subdirectory to find this particular JPEG, the images directory, versus something where the image is just in the root directory of the HTML file. So as we scroll down, after you read the little announcements, as we scroll down, you see that on page 136 of Chapter 5, so if we go to page 136, you're going to see that the size big, when you pull up this file, it's so big you really can't see it. In order to see the whole thing, you have to kind of reduce your size down to 30%. And then the text is really tiny. So it's just showing you how big it's blowing up that image. Let's bring this back up to 100%. Good. So that's what size big is doing. Now if we were to look at Chapter 5, which is in assignment 3, if you looked at that code raw in your editor, size big, and we're going to look at it in this particular editor, Notepad++, although you don't have to, you see that first I wanted to show you that we have some styles in here. And styles is what's in your cascading style sheets. This one happens to be an inline style, which means it's in the HTML code. In upcoming HTMLs, you're going to see this as an external file. But for right now, we've got a little styling. And it's just kind of introducing us to cascading style sheets. But inside of our image, where we're pulling up this particular image, a very large image, it's telling us to display it with a width of 2048 and a height of 1056 pixels. And it's giving us the alt tag of multicolored pools. So in case you are not displaying the image, or if the person is blind, or if you're just not downloading the images, because they just take up too much room and are insignificant, that alt tag will display that instead of the image itself. And you don't have to be blind to not always load images. Sight impaired people might not also load them. So you have that choice. There's the alt image. And then this is what the text says. So that's pretty straightforward for that first example. Let's go to the next example, size small. Now this one is showing us how it's a small size. So let's go to size small. And once again, the reason that I'm using the textbook is because when the textbook website is because when you look at these in the textbook, it doesn't really tell you what the file name is. So you're kind of looking around, but here we can see it. So let's look at size small. And I'm going to look at that in my editor again. So in size small, it's showing us our style sheet again. And now we are looking at a different image, which is a 400 by 300 PJ. And we're telling it that we want the width to be 400 and the height to be 300. So you have to kind of know what the image is so that you don't distort it too much. Looking at that with Yellowstone pools. Here's our Yellowstone pool file. And when we click on it, we can right-click and go into properties. And in the properties, we can see from the details what the physical size of this image is. So if you can display it's a smaller size, but you want to keep it proportional, otherwise it'll distort. Okay. So let's look at the third image, which is transparency stars blue. So we're starting to see an image. And let's open the transparency stars blue background. So here is the code for this. Notice we have a style sheet here that's telling us that we want the background to be midnight blue and the overflow to be hidden. Because when we look at the stars, this stars file, if we look at the stars file, and we can just, since it's not in a subdirectory, I can just copy it here. And then I can say, let's just see the stars file. That's going to show us the stars JPEG. And notice how the stars JPEG doesn't look anything like this. That we have, let me bring up that HTML. That we have given it a size, but we have, transparency blue. We have given it a size, but we gave it a background of midnight blue. So that midnight blue kind of showed through. It went ahead and showed through this image. Because the image that we looked at had a very, very light background. And so that background kind of shined through. Okay, let's look at the next one, which is transparency stars red gradient. So let's look at that stars red gradient. Transparency stars red gradient, and we'll look at it in our notepad. I'll just kind of move this over. And so now we're starting to see a little bit more in our style sheets. So our style sheets here is showing us that we have this HTML overflow hidden. And when we look at this the first time, we have a style sheet for HTML, but then we also have a tag for body, so that when we're in the body of this file, we are going to have a background color of £C. We're going to have a background image of WebKit gradient. We're going to have a background image of another WebKit gradient, and this is for Safari. This one is for older browsers. Older browsers may not be able to take advantage of WebKit. So we're giving it all of this kind of background for Chrome, Firefox, Opera, and more recent Chromes. Or we can use the WebKit here. And that's bringing us up this gradient. So it's going from very, very dark to light. And that's what this is doing. We're going to be doing a little bit more with gradients coming up in the next couple of weeks. And learning about colors. You know, what is this color? And what is this color? Well, let's go back to looking at our code. And here's inserting an image, where we put the image in. And that one happens to be called inserting an image. So if we look for that, inserting an image, there it is. Open that with Notepad++. Here is where we are just inserting an image to display it. And then we have our paragraph around it. We're not doing anything too special there. But it shows us that code. An alternative text code just shows the same, basically the same, that's called alternate text. Basically, it's almost exactly the same code, except that we're now, when we look at this image, we have this big alt tag right here, which tells us what the picture looks like. When we looked at this just inserting an image, we didn't have that alt tag. And here in alternative text, we have that alt tag. And then we have two different paragraphs. One is this note to readers. So if we go in and we're going to scroll down here, and we have this note to readers, alternative text only shows. So it's giving you a little definition in there. If we wanted to do a before or after, we could have our text wrap around this image. And suppose we wanted to find out how to wrap around an image. We could always go to W3 Schools. It's one of my favorite websites. Now, not everybody loves it, but I happen to love it. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller here. And I'm just going to show you this search bar. So if we were looking for image wrap, the image align attribute, the CSS float and clear, the text wrap, or CSS background repeat. So you have a lot of different. Let's look at this one. And if I wanted to try it myself, this just shows where we can have an H4, which is this image with default alignment. And here it tells us to align bottom, but that's just here in the text, so that's not it. Then we go to H4, and we have a paragraph here, some text. This is some text. This is some text. And then we have a smiley. We have our image, which is this image. We have the alt tag. We have the width and the height. So we're just kind of putting that in the text itself. And we're aligning that at the bottom. Here, with the image align middle, we have align equals middle. And that's just kind of telling you that. This is some text. We have the image and we have the alt tag. And then we have the height and width. And here we're telling it to align to the middle. So this first one defaults to aligning at the bottom because we didn't have to put it in. That's the way it defaults. But if we wanted something to be in the middle, or if something wanted to align it at the top, we could do that. Or we could align left. And that would give us where the text would wrap. So it's kind of telling us, so what I like about W3 Schools is that you can search for something, get a bunch of options, and then and we're going to be looking at this a little bit more, and then going down and looking at the examples where it's telling us about how to align an image. And then, we can do this try it yourself. And try it yourself shows the screen where on the left you have the code and on the right you have the result. So if I wanted to change something, I could say image by JilMac maybe. And if I want to see that appear over here, I would have to click the result, and now you would see what I had added in there. If I wanted to say in here before the ending tag, I would say align bottom, and we have to put quotes around that bottom. Too much going here, and I'll put the quote on it. And now if I wanted to see the results, basically nothing's going to change because it by default aligns to the bottom. Here it was put in align middle, align top, and you can see how that image is changing a little bit. Okay. So that's an example of W3 Schools. Close that window and go back to our Barcelona market. Here we have specifying image size. So as you go down through each of these examples, oops. I'm gonna scaling image after. It just shows you kind of a before and an after example. Imagine that. It's not just JilMac doing before and after examples. It's also in the textbook doing before and after examples, where this is now properly sized for the web page. So that's kind of an overview of assignment 5. And we also have a favicon example. I gave you a lot of favicon examples and favicon videos, but this chapter also gives you a favicon where it's showing us the little favicon up here, and the web page has the favicon and how you can put it in. So next time we'll be looking at assignment 6. Thank you very much.